Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a meeting tonight that we believe can be a kind of meeting, the kind of meeting that can be life changing. If you want to know what's causing most of the problems in the country and our homes, you don't have to look real far. It's that dollar bill. It's more going out than coming in, and in some cases, what's causing so much frustration is that right before they got a big pay raise, it was real tight. Then they got a big pay raise, and then 3 months later, it was real tight again. And they wonder why and how can I make 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 more and still have the same kind of problems. We're going to deal with that tonight in a real fundamental way. My name is Ricky Pitts, and I'll be your host for tonight. I want to thank you on behalf of all of the business team members that invited you out to listen to these fundamentals. In football, baseball, softball, track, volleyball, the things that win are the fundamentals, not the real fancy things. And so tonight we're going to look at this word budgeting. And I want to also make a point that it's not a dirty word. And I think for the longest time, when we discuss that, whether it be around the lunch table, breakfast table, dinner table, in the what we call the living room, we talk about, well, it's time to go on a vacation, it's time to this, that, and the other, and it tends to end in an argument because it's already tight, and the person that made these suggestions to go on a vacation or to go and get this other, whatever it may be, it seems like they're being insensitive to what's going on. It's not always that they're being insensitive. Sometimes they simply just don't know. I want to begin with a did you know? And there are five important points here of did you know. I won't deal with all five for the sake of time. I want to talk about, however, two of them. 75% of Americans don't think they can save enough to retire. That's 75%, ladies and gentlemen. That's the great majority. Going to work every day, know that retirement is right over there. Over there being 10 years from now, over there being 5 years, sometimes 5 months from now, and they don't feel they're going to be able to get it done. Nearly half of all Americans expect to retire in debt. They're not saying there's a possibility. I don't know, it's looking like. No. They expect to get to retirement and in many cases still have a mortgage, still have car payments, still have student loans, still have a Visa card, a MasterCard, a Sears, and all the rest of them. They expect that. So it's important now that we get a kind of a handle on our financial affairs because retirement is coming. The question then becomes why? Why should we focus on this so much when we have so many other things going on in our schools, on our jobs, in our communities, in our churches, in our country? Why should I put such a focus on my individual situation? Well, number one, let's take a look at it to get a grip. We got to get a grip on our spending. That's number one. Number two is to save for retirement, number one, or a special purchase. And what causes, I think, internal conflict and a whole lot of outward frustration that's visible is doing things at the spur of the moment. I want to get another car and just decided to get another car this morning. I want to go on a nice vacation and decided to go on a nice vacation Friday evening and going to Dubai. And so these kind of things cause a lot of problems. To know exactly where your hard-earned money goes every single month, to avoid the debt trap. And ladies and gentlemen, don't let nobody fool you. Debt can be a real trap because it makes everybody feel good when that initial purchase is done. Brand new car looks so pretty, shiny. It sounds good, and you crank it up, you can't even hear it run. And turn the air conditioner on, it almost runs you out, it's so cold. It's brand new, and it feels good, but it's a trap. Without a plan, debt can be dangerous. So tonight we're going to talk about 6 steps. And it's not going to be a real long meeting tonight, but 6 steps that can help all of us create a budget and free up money for a place that we're going to be in for the rest of our lives. That place is our future. 1 minute from now, 5 minutes from now, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years from now is our future. And we got to plan for it because, again, we're going to be there for the balance of our days. Number 1 is find out where the money should go. Where the money should go. In an ideal budget, our monthly income should be divided up into 5 categories of spending. Now, this is in an ideal world. So here's how it looks. Housing and debt, 30%. What is housing and debt? Well, that could be, of course, the mortgage and sometimes rent. The debt could be what I mentioned earlier, car payments, Visa card, MasterCard, JCPenney's, Dillard's, Parisians, AFEs, learners, and so on and so forth, student loans. That's debt. What we owe to any other institution, any other family member, that can be debt. That can be at least 30% of the income, should be. 25% is taxes. What do we mean taxes? Uncle Sam, FICA, federal, state, local, and all the other taxes, property taxes, that's 25%. Insurance, life insurance, car insurance, health insurance, home insurance, that's 4%. Savings and investments, 15%. What does that include? Well, that's the retirement accounts. That's the savings account. That's the checking account. That's the emergency fund. That should get a good piece of the pie because that savings is going to support us when we can no longer work. And ladies and gentlemen, don't depend on Social Security. Probably not going to be enough. Living expenses, 26%. And I'm going to just highlight 4 areas in that living expenses. Leisure, which also carries eating out and going to the games, and entertainment, giving. That includes religious giving, family giving, community giving. Family, that includes, food. That includes grooming, hair, nails, barbershop, pedicures, manicures. Transportation, gas in the car, oil in the car. That's an ideal budget, but that's not always the way it works out. So number 1, let's gather the information that we need to get started. And ladies and gentlemen, it is what it is. And it's important to keep it real. And sometimes it's important to include the entire household, the kids, the mother, if mother stayed with you, the father, if father stayed with you, the husband and wife together, the whole family, so as to know what we're really working with. The handwriting is on the wall, and sometimes the handwriting causes a lot of arguments. Well, the handwriting is in the bank accounts, the investment accounts, the power bill, the water bill, the cable, and all the television, all the subscriptions. That can be sometimes $150, $200, $300, sometimes even more per month for YouTube TV and Hulu and Disney and ESPN, and just all the cable channels can really add up, and most people don't even have time to watch that much television. I want to highlight also the investment account, because the investment account right here, if we're not careful, that investment account will turn to a savings account, a put-take account. Put it in today and what? Take it out tomorrow. And I want you, if you would, to put in the chat, why do you think, and I'm going to keep going as you put this in the chat, why do you think it's so critical to have a budget if we intend to have a good quality of life, particularly during our golden years? If you'll put that in the chat, and we'll look at that and we'll keep it moving. Also, you want to note all the income sources. Note what's coming in, the salary. Note the child support, alimony. If there's a pension, you want to write that down. The Social Security, write that down. Disability income, you want to write that down. Rental income, dividend income, cutting grass, anything, any kind of contract work on the side, anything that's done to bring in $100, $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 a month, extra, $1,000 a month extra, write it down. Because if it's not accounted for, that's the time that kind of money just tends to disappear and just go all over the place. Somebody says to avoid working past 60. That's exactly right. 60 now is the new 50. That's the reason why it's important to create a budget. You are exactly correct. And I think many of us that's on the call tonight would certainly agree to avoid where somebody else said don't want to work during the golden years. That's exactly right. And what do you see now? You look around the country. What are folks doing? Working during the golden years. That's the time in life when you want to enjoy the fruit of your labor. Now the golden years have kind of changed a little bit. 70 is the new 60. 60 is the new 50. 50 is the new 40, and on it goes. So it's important to write it down. It's also important to create a list of monthly expenses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be a little redundant tonight. Redundant on purpose. Because sometimes you got to say a thing, then say a thing again, then say what you just said a few minutes ago to make sure that it sticks. So write it all down. Write down the mortgage, write down the rent, write down the car payment or car payments, auto and home insurance, health insurance, life insurance, groceries, utilities, entertainment, educational savings, everything that leaves out of your house that you spend money on, it's important to write it down. I was talking to someone the other day and I told them that it's you Incorporated. And I called their last name. And my last name is Pitts. It's Pitts Incorporated. It's Johnson Incorporated. It's Henderson Incorporated. It's Daniels Incorporated. It's Harris Incorporated. It's Adams Incorporated. It's Torbert Incorporated. Whoever's on this call tonight, it is Gilchrist Incorporated. It's Hullum Incorporated, team. Everything that in your home, you are the CEO and CFO, and it's up to you and up to me to make sure that we operate our company and it's not in the red. It's operating in the black. There's a profit. There's a surplus. There's something left over at the end of the month. And also it's important to look at, again, mortgage and debt, if there's a second mortgage. And I want to highlight just two words on all these monthly home and utilities. Bank draft. Put it on the bank draft. You see, and also know the due date. Why is this so important? Well, number one, it's going to help with the credit because it's never late. But it's important, however, to make sure the funds are there, and knowing the due date lets us know that every week is going to carry a certain load level. And certain weeks are a whole lot heavier than other weeks. Often the first of the month is when a bunch of the bills are due at one time, so we can't go out there and splurge, certainly in that first week. The second week might be a light week, but the third week, it's going to pick up momentum again. The fourth week, here we are in the beginning of the month all over again. So all these things, utilities, you want to make sure those things are on a bank draft. And then also car payments, whether it be 1, 2, I think it's, and I'm going to say this is not to offend anybody. Be real careful. And the old folks and that old wisdom told us years ago, said, baby, whatever you do, you know how the old folk, baby, whatever you do, don't have 2 car payments in your house at the same time. Let me say that again. They told us, our grandparents and great-grandparents, whatever you do, don't have 2 of them in the house at the same time. And I'm gonna let that alone because it's easy to get even 3 at the same time. And what it does, it invites a lot of stress. And you know what stress does, right? I heard somebody say that stress can attack the immune system, the nervous system, have them getting things are happening and hurting that never hurt before because they're just so stressed out. So it's important to look at also all insurance, life, disability, auto, and home. These things are critically important. And what happens if we don't have a certain budget in place, those important things will be let go. Let the insurance lapse on the car, on the life, because the car payment was so demanding. And the maintenance on that car was so demanding to where they had to start cutting in other areas, and they cut the wrong thing. And I've seen cases where they made that decision and that wasn't a real good CEO or CFO move. Look at all the debt payments. It's important for all of us to take a look at this real strong. Whatever credit card you might have, whether it be your favorite card or whatever it may be, look at them and then put them on a bank draft. And it may be that you pay the minimum on all of them and just attack them attack them one at a time. We talked about this in our last session on debt stacking, the snowball effect. But it's important that when the goal has been set to get out of debt, to get completely out of debt and to embrace a budget. Now, budget is the mortar between the brick. The budget keeps the house together when desire starts huffing and puffing and threatening to blow the house down. The desire to get this is huffing and puffing. The desire to go here is huffing and puffing. If you're not careful, it's going to blow the house all the way down. It's important to look at this and to look at grocery, to look at dining out. I want to spend a little time on that dining out because it's easy to spend $1,000 a month eating out. You don't believe it? You can spend $5 in this dining out area. You can spend $5 for breakfast. You can spend $10 for a little light lunch and $15, let's say, for dinner. That dinner could be just a smoothie. That's $15. So now you got 5, 10, 15. That's $30 in a day. That's $900 in a month eating out. And somebody said, I don't have time to cook. I just don't have time. I'm just too busy. I'm so important. I want you to think about something for a minute. And again, this is not to offend anybody. I'm not joking with you and playing the game. I'm just saying, if we want to get our budget under control, we got to make some decisions and some cutbacks. And this is what this class is about tonight, making decisions and making some cutbacks. Because before we started making what we're making now, we did not eat out as much. And that can easily happen. I don't care who it is, where you're from, it can happen real easy. Then you're looking at grooming, prescriptions and toiletries and clothes and shoes. And that's another area right here, it's clothing and shoes, where I've seen cases where people get real stressed out, and as a result of that, I got to go to town, I got to go get some of this stress off of me, and just go spending a whole lot of money. And ladies and gentlemen, it hurts the family in more ways than I have time to talk about tonight. And so what we're doing, as humble as we know how, is encouraging everyone to let's get a handle on the budget. You don't have to impress anybody. You don't have to try to make anybody think you got it going on, because nobody's going to take care of us and you like us and you, okay? And your household. Nobody's going to pay your light bill, water bill. They're going to tell you it's going to be all right. Now, look, here's what they're going to say. I'm going to pray for you, but they're not going to write you a check. And so the next important thing is, now that you put it all together, now that you have a list and you got all your expenses, now it's important to separate those expenses as to what kind they are. One of them is going to be fixed, stay the same pretty much all the time every month, and one is going to be variable. It changes pretty often. Now the fixed expenses, they relatively stay the same. Mortgage and rent, car payments and internet and credit card payments if you set it to be a certain payment. Life insurance, car insurance, health insurance, home insurance, those things pretty much stay the same. But what's going to be important is not to go out there and get more. Don't go out there and get more fixed expenses. And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Then there are variable expenses, groceries. And let's talk about those groceries for a minute. It's so easy. When I came up, they say, boy, you better get something that's going to stick to your ribs. When they say stick to your ribs, something that's going to make you grow a little bit. Popcorn and cookies and all these kind of things don't really, they say stick to the ribs. So it's important to look at the essentials, and they're not that healthy either. And so, and again, I know I'm not trying to, this is not a condescending lesson tonight. It's a lesson of reality. Let's take our time and look at where we're spending our money. And while we come home and we spent $35, $40, $50 on what we call knickknacks, Cokes and drinks and popcorns and potato chips and that type of thing, gas in the car, entertainment, eating out. I just talked about eating out a moment ago. And gifts and birthdays and holidays and anniversaries and Christmas. All these things can really add up. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't spend money like there's no tomorrow. We can, but it's going to be some dire consequences. And what we're talking about tonight is fundamentals. ways to bring it under control and turn this ship around. Number 4 is add it all up. Total up the monthly income and then total up the monthly expenses. You say, Ricky, that just sounds so simple. Come on, you got to give me some more meat and potatoes. You got to give me give me a big word. At least give me a big word. Ladies and gentlemen, it's simple. So that's number 1. Total income, expenses. Now, if the total income, that income that you have coming in, if more is going out in terms of expenses, or you have more staying in terms of expenses, you're doing real good and you're off to a real good start. Now, you want to take that extra money and look for down the road, the future. Pay some of the debt down. Use the extra money. Don't take that extra money that's been freed up and say, oh, Lord, I think you just made a way for me to go get me a brand new one. Don't do it. Also, the next important thing, if the expenses, however, are greater than the income, it's time to make that change. And you are the one that can do it. It's going to be important to come together if you are married or seriously engaged with someone or involved with someone when you're building a life together, to come together and say, listen, if we don't want the next 5 years of our lives to be like the last 5 years financially, we have got to make some change. Because if we're going to do the same thing for the next 2 years, the next 12 months, and expect a different result, the dictionary says that's insane for any of us to think that way. So we got to make some changes. Now, number 5 also is make some adjustments. And that word adjustment is a big, 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 big word. So now that you have a list of all the expenses right there in front of you, it's time now, here's the key word, to find some areas to cut back on. And the best way to find those areas is right here in these variable expenses. One just like eating out. That's a variable expense. And ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, this may sound to those that are used to eating out every single day, like I'm not even speaking, I'm speaking a different, are you speaking Japanese to me tonight? Stop eating out and start doing meal preps? You mean I got to eat some leftovers? Now, I'm gonna give you a country term here now. I'm a country boy. Many of us have forgot where we come from. At one time, we ate so many leftovers. Leftovers was just a way of life. As a matter of fact, the food even tastes better when it's left over the next day, the next 2 days. It's incredible. But we've come from such a long ways. We've done so well. But if we're not careful, we'll go back and we'll find ourselves broke on a higher level. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for some tonight, this call is going to make you mad. This class right here, you're going to say, why did I attend that class? For some tonight, you're going to say, you know what, that's what I needed to hear. And for some, after the call is over, you'll simmer down and not be mad and say, that did make some sense though, didn't it? It's really, really important. So in closing, somebody said leftover, amen. That's right. In closing, I want to say this. Keep up the good work. Now that you've created, this is the key word, because it didn't exist for many likely before you get it done, make sure you take a look at that budget every month just to make sure you're staying, here we go, on track. On track. And then take a few minutes to compare what you actually did with your monthly expenses. I know what you said, but what did you actually do? And ladies and gentlemen, you want to take your time and give yourself time to improve and look at all these areas that you did well in, and what if you did well, give yourself some kind of some kind of reward. If you did well, you might want to take your time and go get you a Smoothie King, all right, and may go get you, something to eat. Just that celebration, because the human beings need to be rewarded as well. That's not a contradiction. That's after going 30 days, 90 days, 60 days of being disciplined, and then coming back and giving yourself a reward for being disciplined. Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't want to hold you real long tonight. But I do want to say this. This call is designed to encourage growth, but also it's designed to embrace process. Process is before progress. And what causes frustration, aggravation, nauseation, and separation is when we don't embrace the process and we look so hard at progress. And that's internal conflict. So let's do our part. Let's take action. Let's record what's coming in and what's going out. And for some, that's something as simple as getting a pen and a pad, just something real simple, and writing down for the next 30 days, recording for the next 30 days, everything that you spend money on. A Coca-Cola, a bag of chips, Chick-fil-A. It was my pleasure to serve you today. You've heard that a lot, right? McDonald's, Applebee's, Longhorns, water bill, light bill, money that you gave to a nephew or a niece, graduation gifts, birthday gifts, anything you spend money on for the next 30 days. And if you're real bold, the next 60 days, when you get to the end of that 60 days, you go get you a yellow highlighter like this and highlight what you spent money on that you didn't have to spend that money on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gonna be a revelation to you to see, oh my goodness, I can't believe that we spent that much money. Hey, thank you for joining with us tonight. Y'all have a great rest of the night. We plan to have another meeting just like this in about 2 weeks from now. We're gonna talk about another planning subject. And it might, well, I'm not going to say what it's going to be, but we'll look at it. And then those that invited you out tonight, we'll let you know when that next meeting is going to be. We want to encourage you to plug back in as soon as you get the word, which will probably be tomorrow, that we'll announce it. Encourage your family. Encourage your friends, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, uncles and aunts, pastors and assistants, principals and APs, all of them, teachers and everybody, to plug into that next meeting, because it's going to be worth it. It's going to be less than 30 minutes, but it can change your life for the rest of your life. Y'all have a great night, and thank you again for plugging in tonight. Take care.